Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're focusing on something incredibly profound, achieving genuine self-mastery and emotional regulation. Now look, we aren't going to deal in fluffy spiritual jargon or cheap feel-good motivation here. We're going to dive into a disciplined, highly precise framework to return you to your innate inner power. Our focus for this session is Series 1, the 12 Universal Laws, and specifically, we are unpacking the Law of Correspondence. So, grab a notebook, settle in, and let's get to work.
I want to start by asking you a question, and I want you to be brutally honest with yourself here. Are you simply reacting to your life, or are you actively architecting it? Most people go through their entire days completely unaware that they are just running on inherited code. Well, today's exploration is dedicated to decoding that exact framework. We're going to map out exactly how you can take radical, uncompromising responsibility for your internal state and, by extension, your external reality.
Okay, here's our roadmap for today. 1. The passenger illusion. 2. The law of correspondence. 3. The world of cause. 4. The sovereign architect. And finally, 5. The evidence audit. We are making a deliberate shift today, moving all the way from a state of reactive victimhood to conscious, deliberate creation. Let's dive right into Section 1, the passenger illusion and our automated reactions.
It is so crucial to start by validating what is an incredibly common human experience. It's so easy to feel stuck in an automatic cycle, right? A trigger happens, some old dusty belief interprets it, your behavior contracts, and the whole exhausting pattern repeats itself. We call this being a passenger. A passenger is someone who treats their automatic reactions and limiting beliefs as unchangeable truths. The fundamental error here is mistaking the deeply ingrained invisible code you've been running for your actual essence. People inherit a script from their past, and ironically, they call it their destiny. But I promise you, it is absolutely not who you are.
Just look at the machinery of this invisible mental prison. The passenger constantly says things like, well, this is just who I am. They confuse a temporary, fleeting feeling with a permanent life verdict. They react entirely to the physical, 3D world around them, remaining completely trapped by unexamined cognitive biases. When you're in this state, you aren't actually reacting to life itself. You're just reacting to your own layered interpretation of life. All right, moving to Section 2, the Law of Correspondence. This is where we completely reframe reality. As above, so below. As below, so above. You might recognize this. It's an ancient Hermetic axiom, famously originating from the Emerald Tablet. And what is so profoundly simple, yet totally staggering about this teaching, is that it reveals how patterns repeat and mirror each other across literally all levels of existence. The macrocosm, the vast cosmos, perfectly mirrors the microcosm, which is your physical, day-to-day life. Now, translating this ancient wisdom into modern psychology gives us the law of correspondence. It basically states that your outer, physical 3D life directly reflects your inner 4D mental reality. The universe is, for all intents and purposes, one massive echo chamber. Think about it for a second. If there is constant, chaotic clutter on your physical desk, there's a very high probability there is scattered, chaotic energy within your mind. Your outer world is simply serving as a holographic mirror of your inner state. Which brings us perfectly to Section 3, the world of cause. Let's talk about the mental plane. We really need to contrast these two realities because understanding where our reality is actually generated is everything. On one side, you have the 3D world of effect. That's the physical plane. Think of it as merely a screen displaying outcomes. On the other side, you have the 4D world of cause, the mental plane. This is the projector. There is literally no point in trying to fix the 3D mirror when your 4D mind is the one doing the projecting. Think of it like being in a movie theater. If you want a different movie, you don't go up and start scrubbing the physical screen, right? You change the film in the projector. This builds heavily on the principle of mentalism, the idea that thoughts are things. Your mind acts exactly like a frequency tuner, receiving and broadcasting thought vibrations all day long. Now, plain thoughts alone don't just magically alter reality. It's when those thoughts are mixed with a strong emotional vibration that they actually get stored as executable code in your subconscious. So changing your mind changes your reality, simply because you are altering the very frequency your physical screen is displaying. Let's step into Section 4, the sovereign architect, and how we reclaim our authorship. Understanding these mechanics demands a profound, foundational identity shift. You can't just stay a passenger who suddenly knows how the car engine works. You have to actually open the door and get into the driver's seat. You have to reclaim authorship. This is the awakening of the sovereign architect. The architect is the part of you that steps entirely out of the reactive mind. You aren't merely the mind that reacts anymore. You are the awareness that can observe the reaction. You aren't the pattern. You are the force that can interrupt the pattern. And the sovereign architect reclaims this control not through some fluffy, toxic positivity, but through highly disciplined, clear-eyed observation.
And practically, this begins with a very deliberate, conscious shift in your language. You have to move from saying, "This is who I am," to saying, "This is a story my mind learned to use." Listen to the difference there. If you say, "I am always terrible under pressure," well, you've just declared a permanent identity. Case closed. But if you say, "This panic is a protective response my mind learned," you have just turned a permanent, heavy verdict into a highly workable hypothesis. You immediately restore proportion and power back to your life.
All right, Section 5, the evidence audit. This is where the rubber meets the road with some highly actionable practice.
How do we actually do this daily? We have to anchor this esoteric, high-level law into a grounded daily discipline. The very next time you feel a disproportionate emotional reaction, you know the feeling, that sharp contraction in your chest, or that sudden, intense urge to just withdraw and hide? I want you to hit pause. Stop right there and ask yourself this exact Socratic question. What must I believe for this reaction to actually make sense? This forces you to stop treating your runaway thoughts as undeniable truths and start treating them as raw data that needs to be analyzed. This is the absolute core of the cognitive rewiring model. Step 1, map the effect. Look honestly at the 3D external limitation. Maybe it's a recurring financial block or a toxic relationship dynamic that keeps popping up. Step 2, trace the cause. Dig down and find the dominant 4D internal thought vibration that preceded it. And step 3, acknowledge. You must see clearly that your 3D environment is perfectly, flawlessly mirroring your 4D cause. They are an exact vibrational match. Now, a brilliant, tangible way to execute this is through the evidence audit. Look, most of your limiting beliefs survive simply because your mind acts like a corrupt prosecutor, keeping a highly selective private case file that only remembers your failures. To break that monopoly, draw 2 columns on a piece of paper. If your core belief is "I'm terrible under pressure," column A is going to hold all the botched presentations and panic episodes. Sure, but column B? Column B forces you to restore the missing data. Write down the crises you navigated smoothly, the impossible deadlines you miraculously met. You aren't creating some false, feel-good balance here. You are literally proving to your own nervous system, with hard data, that the old belief is structurally incomplete. So your daily, non-negotiable sequence looks exactly like this. Catch the trigger. Notice the physical sensation happening in your body. Observe the automatic thought, and do it without judging yourself. Identify the urge to react, and finally, uncover that underlying core belief. Memorize the sequence because it creates immense leverage. It allows you to literally decode the heavy iron bars of your invisible mental prison long before you ever try to forcefully break out of it. Let's wrap this up with a final, powerful affirmation of your sovereignty. I am the architect of my reality, the battery of my resonance, and the alchemist of my soul. I am. Remember, you are the observer. You are the inner flame that is only temporarily operating a biological machine. So I'm going to leave you with a provocative challenge today. Going forward, are you going to continue to run the old inherited code like a passive passenger? Or will you finally command the gap between stimulus and self and step fully into the role of the architect? The power you've been desperately seeking externally, it already exists entirely within you. Get to work.